Hey guys, it's Carly here, and today I want to share with you a shaker card that combines some really fabulous products from Scrapbook.com and also what is essentially your crafty trash. Now you're probably wondering, what am I talking about? Well, let me show you. So we're going to start by creating our shaker windows. I've got the Scrapbook.com mixed media paper pad here, and I'm going to be using the Market Bloom floral dies. I love this die set. I've already been using it a bunch, but I'm going to grab one of the bigger blooms to use. Then I'm just going to grab some of the mint tape and tack it down onto that mixed media paper. Okay, so something I want to point out for this very first one. The way I positioned this bloom on my cardstock, I'm going to have two little pieces of cardstock that go in between petals that I need to hold on to, which is not a big deal, but for the rest of the blooms, I'm going to position it so they're going all the way off the edge and I don't need any of these little pieces. Do you see what I'm saying? These little tiny pieces that go in between the petals. I'm going to save them for later. I'm going to grab them with that little piece of mint tape that I used to run it through my die cut machine, and I'm going to tape that onto my desk so I don't lose them. I used to keep a little bowl of things like that, like letter middles and stuff that I needed to hold on to for projects, but I kept knocking it over and losing them anyway. So now I just tape them to my desk. Okay, so now I'm going to position that bloom again a few more times, run it through my die cut machine until I've finished my shaker windows. Next, I'm going to add a sentiment from the Scrapbook.com Sunny Lane stamp set. It's a cute little hey there, and I'm going to load it up in my MISTI, and I'm going to show you two of my favorite sentiment stamping hacks right now, actually. So, I like to always test them before I commit. So I have a piece of acetate that I keep in my MISTI. I put it over my project, and then I can stamp onto that first and double check my spacing, my alignment, all that kind of stuff before I stamp on my actual project and commit to something that might not be quite right. Now my second thing I want to show you is that this little sentiment stamp has cute little confettis around it, but I don't really want those little confettis this time. So I'm going to grab some mint tape, cover them up, then ink it, take off the tape, stamp it, and that way I won't have those there. And remember, I'm stamping onto the acetate this time so I can double check the spacing. Now if I wasn't happy with the sentiment stamp placement, I have a chance to change it before I commit, but I'm pretty happy. So I'm just cleaning off that acetate, getting it out of the way, and then I'm going to mint tape my stamp again to the parts where I don't want to ink, then ink it up, remove the tape, and stamp it again onto my project. These two sentiment stamping tricks have saved so many projects. I love that just a little bit of like lazy masking with tape can change a sentiment stamp. And I also appreciate being able to check it with the acetate. I've fixed so many crooked stamps before stamping onto my actual project. So now that I've stamped that shaker window panel, I'm moving on to the background. So I have another piece of that mixed media cardstock, and I'm doing a little bit of ink blending with Distress Oxide, Carved Pumpkin, and Picked Raspberry. And I die cut my window panel first so that I could keep using it as a guide. So I can put it over my ink blending and make sure I've got both colors in each flower, that I've got enough ink coverage, and this way I don't have to ink blend the whole entire panel. I can just do where those windows are going to show and make sure that they're exactly how I want them to be. Okay, so I finished ink blending the background, but I had a little boo-boo here. So I smeared that black ink while I was using it as a guide. And to fix it, I'm just grabbing an eraser and just erasing those little smears. So I thought I would share that with you in case anybody else does that on their projects too. Okay, so we've got our shaker window panel, our shaker background. Now we need a shaker pocket, and this is where the crafty trash comes in. So this is packaging from a stamp set. I'm cutting off the bottom that has the sticky fold over part, and then I'm just cutting off the edges to make two big plastic squares. I'm going to set one of the squares aside to use for another card, and then I'm going to use one for this card. So I'm going to take this big square of plastic, and I'm basically going to wrap it around this background that I've ink blended to make a shaker pocket. And first I actually realized I didn't need it to be quite so big, so I cut it down into a rectangle that's just a little bit bigger than my card background. And then I'm going to put some strong double-sided tape along the sides and bottom of my background panel. Then I'm going to remove that liner paper from the tape along the bottom and fold up the plastic onto the tape. I'm going to go over it with my bone folder just to make sure I've got a nice, clean fold. And then I'm going to repeat the process on the sides. And the only difference is where the bottom and the side meet. where you have that extra bit of plastic, I'm going to fold it in to create a really clean edge. It's a little hard to see what I'm doing, but just imagine you're wrapping Christmas presents or a birthday present or something, and you want that really clean folded look. You could trim it with scissors, but I've done that before where I did a little bit too much trimming and then created a hole in my shaker pocket and had to add more tape and patch it together, and this way folding is just much easier. And then once you have the bottom and the sides folded in and adhered, you've got a pocket that opens at the top that you can add your shaker bits. So I've already added some iridescent sequins, and now I'm going to add some chunky glitter too. And I like the chunky glitter because it kind of sticks to the plastic and gives the illusion of glitter paper. And I didn't have to use glitter paper, and I didn't have to use glitter paste, which I'm not afraid of glitter paste. I love glitter paste, but this is kind of a time saver, and it makes it a little bit flatter in case that's something that matters to you if you're mailing or whatever. But once you've got all your bits in there, then you just seal the top with some more double-sided tape. Didn't that shaker pocket turn out so fun? I love how sparkly it is. And now all I have to do is take my shaker window panel and glue it on top. Now I like to use liquid glue for this because it gives you the wiggle room to make sure it's on straight and everything, much easier than using a dry adhesive. And it's nice because if you have a bottle with a fine tip applicator, you can put it on all these little bits and make sure everything is going to be really good and stuck down. Okay, once I've got glue everywhere on the back, I'm just going to put it on top of that shaker pocket and kind of move it around and make sure I've got it straight and how I want it. And then I'm going to pop it underneath some acrylic blocks for just a little bit to help everything really get good and stuck down. While it was sitting, I die cut some flower middles with some black cardstock, and I'm just going to use the liquid glue again to adhere them to the shaker pocket in the middle of each flower. Now remember those tiny, tiny pieces from the first flower I die cut before I realized I should position it differently? I need to glue those back in. So I've got a flower die cut to use as a guide. I'm just going to stick it on there with a piece of mint tape, just temporarily. And then I'm going to use liquid glue to glue those little teeny, teeny pieces in and call it good. Oh my gosh, this is so silly. I didn't even have the right little tiny bit the first time. I had the wrong one because they're both so small, who could tell? You could avoid this whole mess if you just position the flower differently from the get-go. But, you know, at least there's a solution in case you're like me and you weren't paying that close of attention with the first die cut. Okay, tiny bits are in place. Now the next step is to take this whole shaker window pocket combo and glue it to a folded card. I'm going to use liquid glue again because I love the extra time it gives me to line things up. I'm not a precise person by nature, but I really strive for it, so this kind of helps me. And then I'm going to press it again under some acrylic blocks just for a little bit to make sure that it's really good and stuck to that folded card. Now, I thought I was done, but after looking at this card for a little while, I realized I had a little too much white space up top, which I can't believe I'm saying this, but a little too much white space. So I grabbed the mini circle sentiment set, and I'm going to use just part of it to stamp friend. So it's going to say, hey there, friend underneath it. So I'm using my masking hack again with the mint tape. I've covered part of that stamp, inked it up, and I'm going to pull it apart and stamp it down onto my card. And also, I already tested this, guys. Off camera, I tested it with the acetate to make sure I liked the placement before I committed. So now it's officially finished. I love how it turned out, and I'm super excited about the possibilities of that mini circle sentiment stamp set. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to play with that one some more. Here's a final look at this card. And then I was having so much fun that I grabbed the Market Bloom floral set again, and I made another card in the same style, except for this time I used the leaves to make the shaker windows, and then I adhered the flowers on top. It's a little more subtle of a look, but I really love how that one turned out too. So anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. It was so fun to share today. You can find product links in the video description in case you need them, in case you want to make these too. And I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks, you guys. Happy crafting!